Hello everyone, this is Jonathan Williamson from BlenderCookie.com, and I'm going to give you an introduction today to an add-on that I've been developing for a while now that is merely intended to improve your workflow by giving you quicker access to commonly used tools while also creating a variety of macros that allow us to do things more quickly that we do on a regular basis when working in Blender. So this add-on is called Quick Tools. For those of you that have previously used it, it used to be called JTools, but I've recently renamed it. Let's first double check how to install it. So just like any other add-on, we can simply go to the File menu and User Preferences. And then if you already have it installed, simply searching for Quick Tools will bring it right up. Or if you don't have it installed, you can go down to Install File, locate the actual script, which in this case, I have it listed under here in my repository under release, and you can see quicktools.06 or 0.6 is the current release as of this video. Now I'll be continuously updating this, so within the post below this video, you'll find a link to download this. That link will be getting updated as I release new versions, but as of this point, this is the version. So let's go ahead and enable it. And so we can just enable it right here. And you can see that it does two things. Number one, it places a menu in object mode, edit mode, and sculpt mode via the Q key. And then something that's not listed here is it also adds a new section within the object view toolbar that gives us access to a lot of these tools. So first of all, let's check it out in object mode. So in object mode within the toolbar, you can see that we now have this new section called Quick Tools. From it, we've got things like subsurf, mirror. We also have apply subsurf, add target, apply modifiers, add a modifier, set the origin, and then set the shading to smooth or flat. This is a mirror of the object mode menu. So if I press the Q key, you can see we have a menu pop up. And this is what I generally use and what I've built the add-on for. I simply added the toolbar based on request. Now the toolbar is only present in object mode, not in edit mode or sculpt mode, which I'm going to demo in just a moment, but it's there if you choose to use it. So personally, I generally close this, but you can find the menu just by pressing the Q key. Now I've chosen the Q key because it's very quick and easy to access. I always use my left hand on the keyboard at all times, regardless of whether I'm using a tablet or a mouse. And so the Q key is very, very easy to access just with my pinky key. Now, before we get into the tools, if you want to change that hotkey, you can do that very easily by going into the User Preferences, into the Input section, and then what you want to search for is inside the 3D view, we have Object Mode, and you can see Call Menu right here is set to Q. If you toggle this down, you can see it's object.tools_menu. So this is the actual menu that my add-on has created. And so you can just change this hotkey to anything you want. And similar, underneath the mesh menu, you can also find Call Menu right here, which is set to Q. And then under Sculpt mode, you'll find a variety of them that I'm going to introduce in just a moment, but those include being able to toggle the axis symmetry, locking, etc. So you'll find them all here, but let's first get back to the object menu. So within the object menu, there's a couple of things. First of all, remember that this add-on is meant to just improve your workflow with repetitive tasks. So one of those such tasks is adding a subdivision surface modifier. So if we quickly just press Add Subsurf, you can see what it does, but it does more than simply just add a subsurf modifier. It also goes in and sets the resolution to 2 and enables optimal display. Now, I've done this because these are the settings that I most frequently use. When I'm modeling, I almost always set the resolution to 2, and I always enable optimal display to give me a better visualization within the viewport, or one that is less cluttered, because if I turn this off, you see the complete wireframe. If I turn it on, it's much more simplified. So as you begin working on more and more complex objects, that can be very, very handy. So unlike when you add a subsurf modifier from the Add Modifier menu, you can see subdivision surface, by default, it does not have those options set. So I've just created a little macro that then improves that. So similar, if I add a subsurf modifier, another common task is to then apply it to create a polysphere or something like that. So I've added another option to simply apply the subsurf modifier. Now this option will apply any modifiers that are subsurfs on this. So if I add another subsurf modifier and click apply, it will apply both of them. Or if I only have the one subsurf modifier, click apply, it applies just the one. Next, I have a add mirror. So this is another very common thing that I use is mirror modifiers. So if I click add mirror, you can see it adds a mirror modifier, and that's all fine and dandy. But I still need to go in and say delete half of this and do that, and then I have a mirrored object. But another thing that we like to do, or that I like to do a lot, particularly if I'm, say, working on eyeballs within a character, is I like to have, say, the two objects, such as this one, be independent of each other based around the x-axis. So in this case, what I would do is I would add in an empty, so I'll go add empty, plane axes. I'd select my object again, and then set the mirror object to be empty. Well, that's not very hard, but it's a lot of steps, and once you start doing that a lot, it becomes a bit cumbersome. So I've added an option to allow us to add a target. So think of a target as the target for your mirror modifier. Now, in the future versions, I hope to add support for more than just the mirror modifier. Right now, it only works for the mirror modifier. But the way this works is you select your object, you position it wherever you want it to be, independent of the object origin. Make sure your 3D cursor is at the center, so if it's off the side here somewhere, just hit Shift-C, or wherever you want the center of your object to be, or the center of your mirror to be, and then simply hit Q, add target. It adds an empty, selects it, reselects your regular object, and then immediately just press Q again and choose add mirror. And what the add mirror does, it has some additional options in it that automatically detects if you have an empty selected. If that empty is selected, it automatically assigns it to the field right here, allowing you to very quickly, in just 2 steps, add your mirror modifier with an empty target. Now, it goes a little further than that, because let's say we have already created our empty, and we have our object selected. So we've already created this, and we just want to add the mirror. Even if you don't use the add target, if you have a mirror selected and choose add mirror, it will assign that. Or if you have a mirror modifier already on your object and you click add target, it will automatically apply the new target to your existing mirror modifier. So I've tried to make this work for the variety of different cases, such that if you add your target first, then your modifier, if you add your modifier first, then your target, or if you already have both of them created, etc., it should just work. So I think I've got most of the cases there. Of course, if you find something where it doesn't work, do feel free to submit a bug report, and you can find the link to the bug tracker on GitHub in the post below this. I do encourage you to go ahead and submit any issues you have. If you have any suggestions or whatnot, feel free to go ahead and add those. But let's move on now. So beyond that, beyond add target, we also have an entry just for add modifier. So this is just the normal add modifier menu. I just like to have access to it right in the 3D view very easily, so it's there. Next, there's also an option to add all or apply all modifiers, and this does exactly what it sounds like. If we have multiple modifiers on here, it will just apply all of them. So there you go. Now, one thing to note is that this works on multiple objects. So if I select all the objects here and click apply all modifiers, it applies them on all of them. The other thing that I should note, let me just delete these objects and I will add in a new cube and duplicate this cube, is that things like the add subsurf work on multiple objects, as do the target and the mirror modifiers. Now, the mirror modifier does not work on multiple objects, but the subsurf does. So this allows you just to add things to multiple objects very quickly. So rather than having to go through and independently go in and apply all of the modifiers or add modifiers on all the different objects, you can just do it very quickly through this. So I'll add support later down the road to allow the mirror to work on all objects, but for the time being, it just works on the one. Or next, aside from apply all modifiers, we also have the set origin. So this is another thing that I use frequently, where I'll select an object, position my 3D cursor to set the origin point, because right now my origin's right here. So if I just hit Control-Alt-Shift-C, I could bring up the origin, or if I don't want to stress my hand, I can just hit Q, set the origin, set it to 3D cursor, and then maybe I could add a new mirror modifier from there, setting it to that point. So this is something that people frequently struggle with, is setting the origin, so I just decided to make it a little bit easier, particularly since it's something that we do a lot. And lastly, within this menu, we also have Shade Smooth and Shade Flat. They're simple as that. You know, normally within object mode, you would have to go into the object tools, go down here into this massive buttons, find Smooth and Flat. There's no visual indication of where these are. You know, there's no icons or anything like that. So sometimes if you're working on a lot of things, or if you got all these different options open, you know, all of these, sometimes it can be hard to find the correct one. So this just makes it really quick and easy to find that. All right, let's move into edit mode now. So going down here to edit mode, let's take a look at the tools. Now remember that I don't have a quick tools menu right here. This is only within object mode, but if that's something that you would like to see, just let me know. I'll be happy to add it. So within edit mode, we have, again, it's the same hotkey, and I've done this intentionally to ensure that it's a consistent experience across the board. So no matter what mode you're in, Q should bring up the menu. or whatever hotkey you set. Now just remember that if you change the hotkey, you've got to set it for each mode. So within edit mode, these are pretty cut and dry. It's just access to all the commonly used tools. Although the main thing to note is that the mirror modifier and add subsurf work exactly like the object one. So if I add this, then it adds it to the active object, sets the level to 2, includes optimal display. So this is, again, something that I frequently do is I'll be working on a mesh and I'll add in the modifiers once I'm in edit mode. And so that just makes it really quick and easy. And I've only included the mirror and the subsurf because those are the ones that I most frequently use. I also have quick access to shade smooth, shade flat, smooth vertex, knife tool, vertex connect, etc. So those are pretty straightforward. I haven't changed anything else on those. They're just the default tools. Now the one thing that's different is a tool that I frequently use is the B surfaces tool, which is the one that allows you to draw with your grease pencil strokes and then add in a surface based on your strokes. So this is an incredibly powerful tool and I use it a lot, and it is a separate add-on. So remember, from the add-ons, if you search for B surfaces, you can find it right here. So if you have B surfaces enabled, then I have just set a hotkey to allow you to access the B surface stroke right from the mesh menu. So this just makes it much faster than going over to the toolbar and clicking add surface each time. Now, I might extend this down the road to set some default values for, say, the cross and follow and things like that. I should be able to do that, no problem. So I'll explore that further. But for the time being, it just gives you very quick access to your strokes, allowing you to do a variety of things quite quickly. So that's the B surfaces. Now, if you don't have the B surfaces add-on enabled, such as this, then that option simply doesn't show up within the menu. Okay, so that is that. Let's now switch into Sculpt mode. So we'll go to Sculpt mode, and in here, I have a couple of things. So again, you hit Q to bring up the menu. Number one, you can toggle dynamic topology on or off. You'll notice that if dynamic topology is off, then the collapse short edges is automatically disabled because that's a dynamic topology only feature. Same thing, if you don't have, say, things like a remesh modifier, then the apply remesh is turned off. So within this menu, I just have those things that are common to a sculpting workflow, including adding subsurf, applying a subsurf. So now I've applied that subsurf and now I can work directly on my mesh, or I can just enable dynamic topology really quickly. Then I can just go in, I can sculpt on this, I can adjust my detail, whatever it is that I wish to do, I can do that pretty quick. So then I also have a few other options. So things like the remesh, you've already seen. So if I add a remesh modifier, allows you to quickly remesh the form. This is a very common thing that you'll do when you're sculpting if you want to quickly optimize your model to just make a really quick quad-only model. Maybe if your topology has become stretched or something like that. And then you also have the ability to apply that remesh real quickly. We can then also do things like toggling the x-axis symmetry or the lock on or off. So normally, this is something that we'll use a lot, the symmetry options on here, but again, they're only from the toolbar. I'm someone that I like to use hotkeys a lot, so I just set it up to hit Shift X, we'll toggle the x-axis, Shift Y, and Shift Z, so then I can very quickly add symmetry along any one of these axes, no problem. I can also toggle them back off with the same hotkeys, and then there's also the toggle x-axis, lock, y-axis, and z-axis. So if you want to lock any one of these, then you can do that very quickly so that it won't manipulate along that axis. And just pressing it again will then turn that off. So that is the quick tools. Again, it's an add-on for giving you a quick tool access menu within object mode, edit mode, and sculpt mode. I hope that you like it. It's been a real speed up for me. When I'm working, I use it constantly for doing everything from adding in the mirror modifier to the subsurf to whatever. And since it's just right there on the Q key, I've got very, very quick access to it, and it works very, very well. So let me know what you think in the comments. Feel free to offer any suggestions or improvements that you would like to see. If you have any problems with it, of course, please do submit a bug report. This is something that I'm continuously working on, and so any improvements that I can make, I will do so. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.